All right, everybody, we're back for another episode today of Brushing Them Back with Colby White. I decided to jump behind the camera today. I didn't want to take any camera space away from a local legend, Mr. Mark Broom, West Marion alum, a standout there in two sports. Had a little time at PRC. Don't let that Southwest Mississippi Community College stuff throw y'all. His son's going to be playing ball there, so he's got to support the kid at this point. So, isn't that right, Mark?
That's right.
It's all about the children now, isn't it?
That's a fact.
All right, so let's jump right into it. For first of all, for those of you that don't know who Mark is, Mark back in the middle and late 90s was a standout athlete at West Marion High School in Foxworth, Mississippi, playing both football and baseball. You didn't try basketball, did you? I didn't see a basketball.
Well, I played until the 9th grade, and then when it was going to mess with baseball season schedule and stuff, I laid it down.
You got to lay it down then if it's going to play baseball.
I couldn't jump, but
well, you know,
I could shoot and defend. I was athletic, you know.
Well, you know, football and baseball are the two driving forces in Deep South athletics anyway. All right, let's get right into it, Mark. I'm pretty sure, like I said, I'm an old guy, and I remembered you playing. I had to ask you when you actually played. That's how long ago it's been. Well, not for you, but for me, because like I said, I'm nearly 100 at this point. So I don't remember you until around the time you started high school. So won't you jump back and help us out a little bit? What kind of a little demon was a 10-year-old Mark Broom?
10-year-old Mark. Let's see. That's 4th grade, Miss Ruth Stringer's class. Asking, what are you going to do? And I said, professional baseball player or anything to do with computers. That's the only two things.
Wow, that's a wild stretch right there.
Or baseball. And then just personality wise, as a 10-year-old and stuff, whatever season it was, no matter what the sport was. If it was football season, I'm in the yard with the football. If it's baseball season, I'm outside with the baseball. And the community I grew up with, there was older kids, and they all played sports. And then me, I was gritty and I was young, and I had fun. I played sandlot football, sandlot baseball, sandlot basketball, every sport I could, and I played against older kids, and it's who I was from ever. That's all I can remember.
Now, when you were coming up, you talking about playing the backyard stuff. We all grew up playing the backyard stuff. What about from the minute that you were able to play organized sports? You played every type that was available, like any ball you could pick up. You played.
I played soccer. I played basketball. Played football, baseball. We even had little flag footballs and stuff when the Pee-wee football, before the Pee-wee football age and stuff. If there was a ball going on that was organized and stuff, I did it. I really, really liked soccer. And it was kind of a bummer for me because back in those days, you know, Marion County didn't have soccer and all of that. And I enjoyed that Rotary Club and stuff because I was actually very good at that.
Yeah, soccer wasn't a big deal.
No.
And it's getting bigger now here in this area, but it's not anywhere close to the global phenomenon that you see on television.
That's right.
So what's your earliest memory, sports memory? Was it a baseball in your hand, a football in your hand, a kicking a soccer ball? Like how early because I know there's like a 4-year-old baseball league now. I don't know that did they let y'all play that early back then? I know. I think it's like 6 or 7
my
years old.
earliest organized baseball memory is going to be 7-year-old.
Okay.
The team, we were green. It was Ball, Price, and Brown, Randy Wallace.
Okay.
And Freddie Roberts. They were the coaches of the team.
Okay.
And it was T-ball and it was a hard ball. It wasn't a buddy ball.
Okay.
So there wasn't a 4 and 5 and a 6-year-old and stuff. It started at 7. But for me, my earliest memory is that I can remember crawling around in the dirt with a Tonka truck, a little dump truck. And that's my earliest memory in life. And I remember I was pushing a Tonka truck toward a baseball. So that's my earliest memory, and it was baseball. It hooked me.
That sounds like destiny.
That's right.
All right, so sports played were big early in your life, and
Absolutely.
Of course throughout your life at this point. So, was it? Did your parents, did your grandparents, did all your family members kind of push you toward the sports fields, or was it a reward for being the best kid you could be? Staying out of as much trouble as you could.
Well, my mom tells me the stories and stuff from the memories that I actually can't remember. She said everything that I did, it didn't matter if it was a potato I was throwing it, or she said I was always dragging sticks and stuff along and stuff, and he was playing it. She knew that that was just kind of who I was as an individual. It looked like I was going to absolutely love sports. And my birthday's September the 5th. So on September the 1st, my kindergarten year, when it come time to go to school, I had to wait a year for 4 days and stuff. So I actually was an 18-year-old senior. And, but anyway, at that moment right there, at that 5-year-old age, I missed out on school from going to West Marion. And that summer, for that whole year and stuff, that's all I thought about. I wanted to be in school because I wanted to be big.
Okay.
And I wanted to be a big kid. And then I was ready to go meet some kids and stuff because I wanted to play baseball and football. And I wanted to meet a group and stuff to be able to go do that. And I have to give my mother credit. But it's absolutely true. I'm an academic. I graduated high school with honors, with college with honors. I went to engineering school and finished the top of that. But my mom, I guess when I was 5, I was going to be a straight A student anyway. But my mom knew how much I love sports. So when I did get to go to kindergarten the next year, the point of the story is my mom knew how much I love sports. So it wasn't a reward or anything. She knew that. So she told me, you won't never be able to play sports unless you make good grades. That right there in itself, I didn't need any other motivation with the fact that what did the grade need to be? Because I'm going to make that, because you're not going to take that away from me. And that was my mindset.
That's one of the reasons I asked that question. It's the same situation with me. I just performed better in the classroom during the sport that I was playing, because I was told if you don't make the grades, you will not play. I wish that was really a thing today. I wish there was a lot more emphasis on the academics connected to the athletics. I personally, I'm not saying you might not see this, but I've seen a lot of cases where the student athlete is the athlete student.
That's right.
In that order. They're more worried about how far this kid's athletic ability is going to take them instead of how far. Because as you can testify, when an athletic career is over, you got to do something.
That's a fact.
All right, so let's fast forward. I'm going to jump back to a question in just a second I had for you. But we talked about you played multiple sports.
Right.
Let's hyper warp up to high school. Okay. All that elementary and junior high nonsense.
Get into it.
You was smacking folks around back then. But then you got in high school with some sure enough grown folks, some big old boys. And you were a big old boy. You was a massive fella when you made it into high school, wasn't you?
No. About 120 pounds.
Oh,
ninth grade year.
In ninth grade. 120. Yep. You could run like a deer, I hope.
I was just barely average in foot speed at that time.
Not stacking up too good for you. 120 with average foot speed.
Wasn't looking too good.
All right. So, but ninth grade, let me ask you a question. At ninth grade, did you play both? Well, you said you played everything, but football and baseball were both on the. You said you also tried to play basketball in ninth grade.
Yeah, I played all the way up. You tried to do everything. I played basketball coming up youth and all of that stuff. And in the ninth grade is when I stopped. So 7th and 8th grade junior high, and then I stopped because there was no junior high baseball back in those days.
That's exactly right.
Travel ball.
I know back in the 90s. I guess it was probably middle 2000s before the high school, the West Marion High School implemented a junior high. Well, junior high programs across the state actually probably didn't kick in about 2000. And I was going to ask you, you didn't have a chance to fall back on travel ball because that wasn't a thing back then.
Travel ball really wasn't around.
Nobody had realized how much money could be made on that yet. So
but the one thing that you did have with junior high not being available and stuff, the Dixie Youth Leagues for South Mississippi.
Local,
there was Cal Ripken a little bit here and there and stuff, but Dixie Youth was the huge driving
in this area.
In this area.
Which for some of our listeners outside of what they don't know what we're talking about Dixie Youth, that's the companion baseball league and companion football, because also Dixie Youth also offers football for the Little League, which is more people are more associated with the Little League.
That's right.
So that's what he's talking about. For some of y'all that are listening, are like, I have no idea what is Dixie Youth. I don't know what he's talking about. So you went up through Dixie Youth. You
13, 14-year-old.
You were getting bigger and stronger. You was all the way up to 120 pounds, and as a freshman.
And then Coach Coggin, the football coach.
Perry Coggin.
Perry
For those
Coggin.
who do not know who we're talking about, a Hall of Famer, state of Mississippi, no, state of Alabama Hall of Fame coach.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, he was the head football coach, and I got my first experience. I always knew who he was because he was the baseball and the football coach. And then as soon as I came over to the high school, I wanted to know who the coach was. So I seen him from a distance for years. 9th grade year, he had heard about me, and he wanted me to be the water boy in football. So my 9th grade year, obviously we played 9th grade football.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was the water boy, me and Adam Albritton and a couple friends and stuff. And he wanted me around it because he wanted me coming in as that sophomore, because now I wasn't like Marcus Dupree and stuff up in Philadelphia, Mississippi.
Oh,
and he was an 8th grader and
coming
in and
just throwing legends around like Marcus Dupree.
That was not me. I was the little bitty scrawny kid, and he's gonna try to maybe see if I could help a little country school out, but he knew I was gonna be good in baseball, and that's where it really football I love because it was a sport.
Okay.
All right. But baseball is who I am. My whole life.
So quick question. 120-pound freshman,
mm-hmm.
9th grade football with
mm-hmm.
average foot speed.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly where did you plug in on the team? Like what position did you play the majority of that 9th grade year?
I was the starting quarterback. I found a way to be greedy enough.
Okay.
I was smart enough. And I studied a lot, people, and I learned a lot that year. I grew up really, really fast because everybody that was so much better than me, they were faster than me. They looked a certain way that I didn't look that way and stuff, and it made me mad. So there was something inside of me and stuff that I thought, I've got to do that.
Okay, so
and I was a safety as well with average foot speed.
Okay, so I fix that. You must be a real hitter if you're playing safety. Then you did a lot of run support there, huh?
Well, at that point right there, I thought I was a hitter, but at 120, I bounced off more. But I did catch a lot of interceptions.
And I'm guessing at a 120 and average foot speed, you didn't run a lot of wishbone. You must have been like an air raid offense.
No, actually, with Perry Coggin, I had the talent with an arm, but he was that old school.
I knew they ran the wishbone during that time.
We didn't throw it that much. Yeah. I wanted to, and I would have benefited from it, but he was his term was 3 yards and a cloud of dust.
3 yards and a cloud of dust.
And I'm sorry, 3 1/3 yards. Yeah, a cloud of dust. He gets his first down. Yeah. We get up and we go and stuff. So so that 9th grade year, being small and learning to fight and getting knocked down and getting bruised and really getting dominated and stuff. That does one or two things. You either pack it up and you go do something else, or
it breaks you makes
you start building into something.
Sounds like to me your freshman year, you were glad to see baseball season get there.
That's a fact.
All right. So in baseball, have you generally played the same position or positions throughout, like from the time you started all the way up through high school?
Yes. Yeah, it was always back with Dixie Youth, the way it's set up, you have 2 age groups. It's either 7 and 8, 9 and 10. So 11 and 12, and then the 13, 14, and then you're into high school.
Which now the 13 and 14, you probably didn't waste your time with that because you were already playing high school ball by then.
Well, no, the 13 and 14 with the way my age worked and stuff.
That's right.
That was the 7th and 8th grade, and as soon as 14 was over, it rolled into 9th grade year into high school.
We talking about how old I am. I played the old ball field, not the new yards that might. For just a quick note, we will be talking to the guy that's the general manager of the yards at Columbia, Mississippi next week. You guys tune in. Sorry, quick plug there. Before the yards existed, they had the Dixie Youth Ball. We affectionately refer to as Dean Griner.
Yeah, Dean Griner. By the water park.
And I actually played in the very first 13, 14-year-old game I ever played on those fields.
That's cool.
That's how old I am. Yeah, you were about 6 years old, I am, probably.
Probably so.
You were probably up there, but you were probably digging in the dirt somewhere.
At that time.
But anyway, but it worked out like that for me also. See, I was 13 years old in the 9th grade. So I played 2 years at Dean Griner and also played 2 years of school ball.
Right.
So I felt like a travel ball kid. I played like 70 games 1 year. So
that's a lot.
So anyway, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hijack your story. Go ahead. Go ahead. So you I'm assuming with arm, shortstop, some third base, maybe.
I did. Well, that back to the story. My first year, every year, I was always on the team with Bubba Rogers and his son Charlie Rogers.
Okay.
So when I come into the league, and I kind of went with them, and then my second year that I'm in the league, Charlie was 1 year older than me, so him and his father, they would move up a league, and Mr. Winston Joe Cox and his youngest son Jamie Cox, they moved in the league. So I kind of all the way up, I got my teeth cut with Bubba Rogers and Winston Joe Cox, and first year in the league, I would catch. Mm-hmm. Because I could block it up, I could catch, and then you had the
decent arm.
Charlie had a good arm. He was a year older, and then we had a couple of guys that were a little more, because I was still small back then and stuff, but I was athletic. Right. You could put me in any position, so it made them better with me catching. Second year, then now I roll out to. I still caught some, played middle infield. I'd go play left field. I would tell the coaches back then and stuff, if they was hitting balls out to left field and stuff, I didn't want to be in there. Yeah. Go put me out in left field. So I'm gonna go catch those balls.
I don't want to stand on third base, but that's the ball out there.
And that's who I was as a kid. I didn't get locked up with you got to be at shortstop or hey, I'm the best player on field and stuff. No, wherever that ball was going, I was like a dog wanting a ball and stuff. That's where I wanted to be. I wanted to be in the action.
Charlie Rogers, that's another local legend, Charlie Rogers. He ended up having a pretty good career at the University of Mississippi.
He did. So. Sure did.
Which you've been around quite a bit of talent. Some of these guys you're naming off. I mean, it's right. We didn't even get a chance to tell the story about how you shut down the number one running back in the state of Mississippi when he played at McGee.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, we didn't want to get the McGee folks upset by telling that story, so we just jumped past that. So.
Well, I will say this though, that really wasn't me shut him down. Now I had some studs that's on that field that night.
Those 7 or 8 guys that was making tackling.
Our linebacker, I was safety, and I called an interception that night and stuff, but I didn't stop that guy. He was a stud, and our linebackers and defensive linemen and everybody else and stuff. I was just glad
he turned out pretty good too, didn't he?
Yes, sir.
He turned out to be a pretty good athlete.
Yeah, he's really good.
All right, so tell us a little bit about moving into high school. Mm-hmm. You at that point you gave up basketball because it was interfering with baseball. That's true love. Yep. You made a statement before we got started that you played football and you enjoyed it, but it was more of just like an off-season conditioning type. That's just keeping your body in motion.
That's right.
Is that the main reason you played football, or you just had such an affection for the coaching staff or the guys that you got a chance to play with? What was the driving force behind you, since that was considered your off-season workouts? Was football?
Well, so back then there's no iPhones and there's no multimedia and all this access to everything. Football season's in, and that's what's on TV. You're watching your NFL and you're watching college and stuff, and it's a ball, and in the neighborhood and stuff. So it's in season, and that's. So I did it because that was what was in, and everybody was doing it and stuff. Right. So I played it, and if it's got a ball, ping pong, jumping jack, marbles, it don't matter what it is and stuff. I enjoy it. I love it. I love rugby. Tell you about rules about rugby and stuff. It don't matter if there was something that I could find and watch on TV or anything. I wanna learn it, and I want to see how their body's moving, because in my mind, I'm going to do that better than them. That was the thought process. So football season was because it was season, and all it was doing was getting me to back in that time was getting me to baseball.
Right.
9th grade year comes around for football, and then I start tasting it. I got knocked on my back. I got that wind knocked out of me and stuff. And then you learn to fight. You learn to push, and then you see so many more people that's so much more athletic than you. And for me, that drove me. Anytime I see somebody better than me, I might not ever catch them, but I can promise you I was going to do everything I could. I was going to chase them and stuff,
All right. So did you ever reach a moment, or how recently, or how quickly did you reach the moment that you walked out on the field, whatever it was, football field, baseball field, whatever, and you thought, I might be the best guy out here, talent wise? Did you ever run into that?
I didn't run into it in football. I can honestly say that right there. I had my skill set. I could run. I had agilities, and I worked really hard back in my early years around all those running backs that were around, the Sean McGee's and different ones that could jump like a deer and run through the hurdles and stuff. And I got to where I was really good. I never could catch Sean in a foot race, but I promise you, I looked really good beside him and doing those things. And then ultimately, I didn't realize how that was transcending for me actually on the pitching rubber. Back then, I'm just trying to be better than Sean and doing that. And those days of training that football and having those life lessons that you get on that football field and stuff, that actually is what really, really made me who I was in the game of baseball, because that's a different kind of sport,
right?
You know, and you're not, if you're fatigued and stuff, and football and stuff, they're saying spit on it, tape it up, let's go. You know, baseball, there's, you know, there's a different approach to it.
Blister.
That's right. I need to come out.
Yeah, I got to come out. I got a blister.
Right.
Yeah, my story similar to yours. I played football up to the 9th grade, and in the 9th grade, I realized that I'm okay at football, but I'm a much better baseball player,
right?
And I need to concentrate on that. I wish I would have known. I wish I would have employed some of that science that we have now. That it was there, we just didn't realize it. Like we didn't understand about off-season conditioning, training, and programs and all that. I wish I'd incorporated more of that. My shoulder would have held up. You know, my whole body would have held up, but my shoulder especially would have held up.
Well, but to answer your question though, when do you think that you?
Yeah, was there a moment? Was there a moment?
I can honestly sit here and say this, and there's probably if somebody's watching this that knows me, that grew up with me and stuff. I was very confident in myself. Always have been. I was cocky, and then especially throwing a baseball, and then that starts popping out of your hand like that. It fuels you and stuff, and you know, arrogance and those things come out. But I can honestly say there never was a moment that I thought I was the best player on the team or on the field that day and stuff. But I can say the night I threw against Hattiesburg High School, when they rolled into town and you're looking at Matt Butler and you start calling off Ladner, and then you start calling off Tatum at catching position, and Coach Larry Knight and stuff had multiple D1 guys that's on that Hattiesburg High team. And when they rolled into Foxworth, Mississippi, and when that game ended that night, I realized I didn't necessarily think I was the best, but I can tell you this right now. I knew I could play more than just 3A baseball and stuff. I knew I was pretty darn good.
Yeah,
it opened my eyes up, and saying, here I am.
So what
moment.
Year would that have been?
I was 99. In 1999.
Pretty solid team you faced that night.
Yeah, they were pretty good.
They were pretty good. Yeah. They probably thought they were going to roll in and just steamroll you.
Well, I don't know what.
I don't know how big they were.
I'm sure they did think that. I'm pretty sure they probably were wondering why they were coming. Because back then they're moving up to 7A now, but back then the biggest was 5A.
And they probably wondered why they were coming.
Why were they coming to West Marion, Foxworth, Mississippi,
the Swamp.
Against the 3A team?
Shout out to the Swamp.
You know, but we went over and played them the year before in Hattiesburg over there at their place, and they stomped us pretty good. They were there, and I played shortstop that evening. And that year in '98, Coach Knight had. You had Matt Buren, Van Buren was a junior. And then he had a senior that year that got drafted. He had another senior pitcher in '98. He gets drafted in by the Colorado Rockies and stuff. They're loaded. Neither one of them played against us, and they played underclassmen and still beat us like 13-5. So next year, to that point, they were probably wondering, what are we going over here in '99? And I just my name had got out there pretty good and stuff, and I don't know, maybe Coach Knight just said, you know what, let's just go see for ourselves. Let's see what he's got.
You know, and the crazy thing is, as hard as the recruiting cycle is now, even at the high school level now, even though they say it doesn't happen, back then, if he saw what he liked, you'd have probably got a telephone call from him.
Right.
Hey, let's work something out here. You know,
that
kind of stuff happened, but it always happened, you know, behind the scenes, under the table kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah. Just think, man, NIL deals. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So let's look at it's easy for us to sit here and talk about what you were able to accomplish. But you and I both know the only way that you ever accomplish anything is the support group that you have around you.
Right.
So, and I know your support group has increased as you've gotten older.
Right.
And of course, now you're a part of a support group because you got a son playing ball. That's doing well. Tell me about some of the folks that surrounded you that were like your biggest supporters, you know, or even at this point, I'm going to say your biggest detractors. You probably had some family members that tried to find flaws in your game or nitpick about stuff you did or didn't do right. For example, I know when I played, my dad was one of the mildest mannered fellas ever. But after every game, he told me exactly everything that I didn't do properly. But you know what, though? I didn't take that as a slap in the face. I took that as a learning experience. You know what? Dang, he's right. If I throw that slider, you don't want it. So anyway, tell us just you don't have to. You can narrow it down to just 2 or 3 people. You ain't got to, because you probably got a pretty big support group at this point. So tell us some folks that have impacted you, as part of your biggest support group.
From the earliest days on and stuff, it was going to be my mom. My father got hurt in the oil field when I was little. I was like 5 years old. He had rods and screws in his back. So he really wasn't able to get out and be that one to throw with and stuff. And my mom, she was that kind of mom and stuff. And she supported me in anything that I ever done. And she was that driving force for me. We lived out. We lived out in the country and stuff. My mom went to work and we went to school and we come back and, back then mom was a support group. And then I played by myself on a brick wall with no windows. And that's where I got my training and stuff in, and then it would come time for the baseball games and coming up and stuff. And she was there, and then she married my stepfather, and they were always there. And then as you get older, you're in Foxworth, Mississippi, so you go to school, and then the weekend comes and you hang out a little bit and stuff, and then bam, then season starts, and the support group that was going to be for that's obviously my mother backing me and everything. But then it's just going to be my coaches. It wasn't this big family. My family, a lot of them lived off in North Carolina, building homes and doing different careers and stuff. So during that time right there, it's kind of close knit with just family. And I guess the only support group is going to be teammates, us learning the game together. And then head coach Perry Coggin, who I dealt with him in football. He was the head football coach. Right. I dealt with him in baseball, and that was a love-hate relationship. Yeah. I hated the way he pushed me until I wasn't getting pushed anymore, and then I realized just what he did for me. So that was my support group at that point. It was really I just dove into my coaches. That was my world. I was singular focused. Tell me what I need to do, and then now whoever's around me, I'm seeing what they're doing because I'm going to be better than that. I'm going to do that better. And then as my career, I blow my elbow out, have multiple elbow surgeries, and that phase of my life took effect. And then I started having my children, and then my son comes along and he's playing sports and stuff, and that support group around that grew to where that's a different dynamic now. So then now I'm coming through with him, and I start coaching. And then the next news, he gets a little bit older, and now travel ball is these days. And then I get a couple kids from a different county, and their parents come in, and I met some wonderful people from Purvis, Mississippi, and man, just sports people that love it, and they love their kids, and it was a family environment, and that support group there that I've had over the last few years till my son's now graduated and about to go play college ball. That support group right there, that was special to be a part of, to see a bond of parents. And then for me, that we hadn't got into anything of what's built me and what drove me and my mind and stuff, but that's how I coach. Right. And there would be times where I would kind of want to go easy on them, and the parents are sitting here going, no, that's not who you are. They're not going to be better. And they're coaching me up to stay true to who I am and stuff. So that was a truly, truly great environment to be around with the support group, with the parents that I did with that travel ball with my son and stuff. It was cool to see them support their kids, expect high expectations, and want their kids to be pushed.
You realized in your journey, sounds like, that family is more than just bloodline.
That's right.
You got a lot of family people that take care of you.
That's a fact.
And that's another thing. People bash small communities all the time.
Right.
But small communities, they embrace, especially young athletes. You see a kid, he's doing well, and you're going to have 2 groups. You're going to have the one that's going to be out there trying to bash them, tear them down, and one's trying to build them up. And we talking about the Dixie youth stuff. That's one of the best examples of it. I told somebody the other day, I didn't realize just how out of control youth sports were until I umpired for a couple of years. And it's insane, man. It's like, why in the world would any human being come to a 8-year-old baseball game and scream and holler at a guy that's out there trying to help your kid get better?
Right.
I mean, it just blows my coaches, man. I've heard coaches get yelled at and cussed at. You talking about you coaching, dude? I guarantee you've had some conversations with some folks that you had to take behind closed doors because I know they got out of control at times.
There's always moments like that. That's for sure.
All right, let me back up just a second. Now we've discussed that. You're coming up through high school. You know, you're getting progressively better every year. Better every year. Your college looks like is in the future potential, possibly playing professional baseball. That's at this point. You're starting to see it. It's that light at the end of that tunnel.
That's right.
And then major setback occurs.
That's right.
First of all, tell them what it was, how it happened, when it happened, all that kind of stuff.
All right. So senior year starts. I finished my junior year. Make the all-state team. I'm throwing it 90. I'm letting it go my junior year. 90, 91, topping out. You know, throwing it 87, 88, a whole lot. Striking out a lot of people. And so my name's out there. So senior year, football year rolls around. That concludes. We roll in, and my arm strength during the football season of throwing the ball. I remember Coach Coggin, he said, I can't wait to baseball season because your arm strengths jumped drastically. And I'd never been around guns too much. They started surfacing at the end of my junior year. The first day of practice, Perry Coggin had a radar gun behind the fence and stuff. And we all got stretched and warmed up. And boom, puts me up on the mound, and boom, I fire the first one. He puts the gun down, smiles, and then he comes out on the field and stuff. So this is going to be a fun year. So first pitch right out, and it was 94 miles an hour. So season begins, and Coach had loaded up the schedule. We played Oak Grove High School. For everybody that
regional powerhouse. Regional powerhouse.
And then Hattiesburg's, and then the list goes on. He really loaded it up, and he had it there for me. And I'm grateful that we had the opportunity to be able to play teams like that, because we were really good. I threw the ball hard and well, but I had a senior led group and stuff, and we were a good team. So game one comes in, and I strike out like 14 first game right out the gate. I pitch against Oak Grove, and that was actually the first game of the year, and I think I struck out 11 or 12. I think it was in 4 innings, and like 6 reached first base on a strikeout, third strike. So we had to change the catcher. So then DJ May had to start catching me. So we had to go through that transition there. And so DJ settles in and becomes the catcher. And the season rolls on, and we finished the season 28-6. And the way that the schedule worked back then is every Tuesday night and Friday night was district games. Mm-hmm. Then on Saturday, we're playing a baseball team somewhere. And on Tuesday night and Friday night, I was pitching the whole season. And then on Saturday, I was playing shortstop. And having those throws and not being on a pitch clock and probably throwing 140 pitches. I struck out 214 kids my senior year, so I threw a lot of pitches. And by the time the season gets to the end of it, we're rolling through the playoffs. And we get to South State. We're getting ready to play Newton County, and we get off the bus. Game starts, and in the second inning of that game, I threw a pitch, and I felt it in my elbow. I felt it let go, and it was a no doubter in that moment that I was not about to throw the baseball the way I had been throwing it, and I threw a pitch, and Coach Cotton comes out to the field and says, your fastball has dropped drastically. What's going on? And I said, something just popped in my arm. But he turns around and walks off, goes back to the dugout. Well, me being me, like a coon in a trap, give me the ball. And I pitched the rest of the game. Finished that game up, and that was it. At that moment right there, that was the defining moment. And there was probably 15 scouts at the game. And as soon as the game was over, they're all around the fence, and what's going on? I said, well, there's really no reason to lie about it. Something just popped in my arm, And so I'd already signed at the University of Southern Mississippi, on a Division I scholarship. And so we come back and have to play game 2. And then they beat us at home. So senior year, it went from rolling. Man, I had 2 19 strikeout games, had 18 strikeout games, 17 strikeout games. I had the 16 strikeout no hitter. Got beat on a strikeout home run type play against Hattiesburg. That kind of morphed me into the national spotlight for throwing a no hitter, and the guy running all the way around the bases on a strikeout home run. And so all of that comes to an end, and the summer's coming up. And I was scheduled to go to Cleveland. I was going to be throwing in Cleveland, and I was going to go play in a Tournament of Stars in Chicago. I had to cancel that. And slowly at that moment right there, the essence of who I was, and that, I don't know, self-absorbed feeling that you have of yourself and stuff, it just started sucking out. And I knew I had an opportunity to be at USM, but at that moment, I knew I was hurt. So I knew that most likely my time was, it was not going to be good. So I did go to USM. And as soon as I got there, immediately I had a surgery. The ligament in my arm didn't tear, the bone just ripped off. So they go in, and back then in 99, they just put a pin in. And so you do your rehab time, and then it come time for rehab. When we started pushing for rehab and stuff again, we're starting to work on getting extension out, and they snapped the pin in my arm, rehabbing. And so I had to have a second surgery. That happened after Christmas of my freshman year. And then they go in and they put 2 pins, little bitty pins in there to try to keep the medial epicondyle bone together. And at that moment, it was crystal clear there that my professional career was pretty much going to be, it was over. That was not gonna be my dream any longer. And that was a tough pill to swallow. That was tough. And then I wound up leaving USM and went down to Pearl River Community College. And because I was an athlete, I wanted to go swing the bat, and I went down there and did. I was still rehabbed, and then I kind of played outfield as it got back to the point to where I could just throw. I hit some home runs down there, played the outfield, and then all of a sudden, boom, the arm acted like it kind of wanted to come back. And so then I start throwing a little bit. And next news you know, I'm throwing at 92, 93 miles an hour again. And I actually signed back with USM. A lot of people don't know that, but I signed back in a fall down there that I was throwing. And I signed back at USM. And then when the spring rolls around, when I was at USM, I had taken a lot of classes. So when I went down and played that one season at Pearl River, man, I had all my basics taken. So I took vocational courses. I liked electricity. I had pretty much all my basics done. And well, when I got time to go back to USM, vocational courses didn't. So I was going to lose a year of eligibility. And which Coach Palmer was, hey, I'll take you for 1 year. Your arm looks like it's coming back. And he said, but NAI rules it's a little bit different. So go talk to them. So I wound up finishing my career in college. I wound up going to William Carey because of how that worked out with their rules and stuff. And I had 2 years of eligibility. And I was good enough to throw really good at times. And I pitched in a regional championship game against North Georgia, struck out 13. But the next morning, I couldn't pick my arm up.
Yeah.
I couldn't drink orange juice and stuff. So that pro dream and career and all of that day, that moment, that setback that you're talking about, it was 1999 and Newton County, and I threw a pitch and my arm snapped. And that moment right there, that was the setback, and that was the moment.
All right. So we talked about this earlier. You said you don't mind talking about it, so we're going to talk about it.
Okay.
And well, you mentioned it earlier. You were throwing all the time.
Right.
Tuesdays and Fridays. I mean, first of all, I don't understand how you could be the Tuesday night starter and the Friday night starter. I don't even understand how that works. I guess it's X amount of hours rest they could pull that off.
Well, I mean, back then, and I know Coach Coggins said a bunch of times stuff, but he got 3 days rest. Now he's actually pitching on the third day, but it wasn't always. I didn't pitch every. There would be some district games, like if you played Prentice or somebody like that right there and stuff, would. But I pitched. There was most of the time it was 3 days rest, 4 days rest. The night that I pitched against Hattiesburg, we were actually supposed to play them on a Saturday. So, and the way that Coach Coggins set the schedule up, that was the week of maybe one of your weaker teams in the district. So I was going to have, I pitched on Tuesday. He still got me in on Tuesday, but then Saturday was going to come along. That's plenty of rest. Well, we actually got rained out. So I didn't even think that game was actually going to take place. Now, when Hattiesburg, they're not going to reschedule for West Marion. And
they did.
For that Monday night.
Yeah.
And it's funny how everything works itself out. Corky Palmer, who was the University of Southern Mississippi head coach, he had already been trying to come see me a bunch because I'm right in his back door. But baseball season's going on, and they never could get their schedule in. When that game rained out, Corky Palmer was sitting right there in Foxborough, Mississippi, behind the backstop, and he watched that whole game, and he would have never seen me live in person if that game doesn't get rained out. And then Coach Knight at Hattiesburg doesn't make the decision, you know what? Yeah, let's go over here and let's play West Marion at their place and stuff. So that's kind of how that.
So all that use was the best of times and the worst of times.
Correct. So on the use of it and stuff, I can't throw it all. I obviously, yes. To answer the question is, you threw way too much.
Yeah.
I struck out 214 people. I had an insanely walk to strikeout ratio. It was very impressive. Barely had an ERA, but you throw a lot of pitches. Yeah. And then I played shortstop. And then now back to dive into this, Coach Coggin was a phenomenal mind. He was an old school Alabama guy. His mind in football, watching film and just coming up with some scenarios and game plans and stuff, it was awesome. To be a part of that, especially growing up in a little bit small town and to have that kind of mind that's training you up. Well, he was hard nosed, and it's football, and in football, it's broke. Yeah, let's just tie it up. Let's keep going and stuff. Yeah, well, then he turns around and he's baseball coach, and he's who he is, and he's his mentality of who he is. And then me, that little kid that I told you that wasn't very good, that was barely above average speed, and everybody's better in football and that, but drive to be the best. I come up under that culture. Well, then when baseball season rolls around every year, it's football mentality, and that was ingrained in me. He was a mechanism that was used, but it's still who I was because I responded to it. So it was me. So when baseball season rolled around, I did want to be on the mound. So did I throw too much? Yes, but I wanted. And
going back as far as I did play, because I graduated in '87 from West Marion also, and back then we just went out there and played ball because we were told to play ball. Right. We didn't question it because the coach was an authority figure back then.
Right.
The coach now is just a guy that goes out and makes suggestions. You got kids now that have arm issues because they play too much. They absolutely play too much baseball. And I know you might say there ain't no way you can ever play too much baseball, but you can. And then like when we played, like you said, if I was on the mound, if you was on the mound, you didn't want to get that ball up.
No.
Yeah, we grew up watching. Well, I grew up watching Nolan Ryan pitch. You're actually old enough to remember him too, because he was still pitching when you came through. And I'm telling you,
I mimic my delivery off Nolan Ryan.
Nolan Ryan, he once said that he would have quit baseball today in today's society if they'd have gone out there in the 7th or 8th inning asking him for the ball.
Yeah,
he'd have quit.
Yeah.
So
that was me. So there was use. It was too much, but man, me and him at times, and to be quite frank, there was times that my arm was down, and I did mention it. And then he uses that football mentality to push me, and then I push through it and stuff. And then you go out there for 1 or 2 innings, and then boom, all of a sudden he just gets numb, and the pain's gone, and then wham, and then once you start there, and you go, And then there's times where when you're playing like the McGee game you referenced in football our junior year, and you're playing all those studs. Well, all of them play baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when they come in there and stuff, no, I didn't want nobody else on the mound. Now McGee's coming to West Marion. Mark Broom's going to be throwing the baseball at him.
Yeah.
I remember we beat them junior year with Justin Griffin, and they showed up in the spring at baseball, and when they pulled in on campus, Foxworth's got 2 red lights now, right across Pearl River Bridge.
That is correct.
Well, back then there was no red lights.
Correct.
And then they backed in by the batting cages, and me and Brandon Thornhill, was throwing to each other and hitting, and they all backed up. And the coach got off the bus and walked around to go get with our coach. And as soon as he cleared, all the windows come down, and every one of them's throwing that state championship ring out. And they're saying, "Hey, Mark Broom, look at this." And they're jawing and stuff. That's what makes this game so great. That's part of it. And they're fueling me, wrong guy to be doing that to. And then I look at them, me being who I am, and I say, go look at that trophy. And when you see that number 1 beside it, 13-1, I did that. I done just like that. And they cleared the bus. When they cleared the bus, they're screaming as they're coming closer stuff. There's not even a red light in this town. I never said a word, but I did remember that statement. Coaches come running back around, stop all of it. Then game starts right out the gate. First 3 batters, they're sitting down. And each one that struck out, they heard red light. And I think I said red light 18 times that night. Yelling out red light at them every time I struck them out and stuff. So that's who I was. So yes, a coach that was that football mentality and loved to win and loved to, he pushed to get the most out of you, and then to turn around, like you said about Nolan Ryan. If you try to take it from me, I'm mad.
Yeah.
So I kind of done it to myself as well.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, some of the stuff you're talking about, you referenced a couple of terms earlier about self-absorption or something, or arrogance or something like that. I call that confidence. I mean, I understand there's different levels of that.
Yes,
and when you were 16, 17, 18 years old, we need to clarify something. When you 16, 17, 18 years old, you got hormones and adrenaline driving you. You'll say and do some of the stupidest things in the world. Now, as you gotten older, you appreciate those moments more because I know I don't want to go back. I wouldn't want to go back and try to do it again. You might, I wouldn't, because I'm just telling you, I would probably screw it up even worse if I went back. Knowing what I know now, I'd still probably screw it up. I'd still do something stupid or say something stupid. But I think that's confidence. Like when the interaction you just had with the McGee guys, that's confidence.
No doubt.
When I was playing, it was Tylertown. We had issues with Tylertown. Mm-hmm. Their pitcher would throw at us, we throw at him. We brawl. We brawl at home plate. I mean, that's just the way it was. That was football and baseball. We absolutely hated each other. So I know what you're talking about. All right, we got a few more minutes, and I've got to get this in. I got to know. Okay, not talking about your bloodline family. I'm talking about somebody outside your family. You can't use your mom. Can't use your mom on this answer as your biggest fan. Mm-hmm. But who would you consider would be either your biggest fan or your mentor? And I know at times the mentor is probably going to change, because you told us, I can't remember if we were recording when you said this, you made a reference when you were a young kid, and because you were referencing Colby and his dad. Mm-hmm. Now I know he was older than you, but you probably early in life considered him possibly a mentor, but you didn't even realize you did because you were a young guy.
Eddie White does know that now, but back when Eddie, Colby's dad, was 15 years old, he had no idea that there was a 9-year-old Mark Broom looking down from the backside of his house, watching him. And Eddie, like I told you earlier, Colby's dad would get a broomstick and cut the top of it off, go outside and hit rocks till he had blisters on his hands. And then I'm 9 years old, and the way my house down the road was, I could get to the back of the property and I would just watch him, and I'd watch how his feet moved, because Colby's daddy was unbelievable talent. Yeah. I mean, he's very, very athletic. And I watched how he moved and everything. And then as he come up his playing days through West Marion and stuff, Eddie was a stud. Right. That's who you're gunning for. So I watched him, and Eddie made me better, and he didn't even know it, because I watched how he moved. I watched how his hands worked. I watched how his feet worked. And Eddie was fast. And I trying to teach myself, how do you run fast? Didn't have money to go to camps and trainers and all of those things and stuff. So I watched how people did. And Eddie White, there's no doubt, hands down, I had the ultimate respect for him. And when him and his wife, Melissa, they had Colby, and Colby started coming up through it. I told Colby that just how much Eddie drove me to be who I was. So from a mentor, from a distance with Eddie, there's no doubt. I don't know if it sounds vain or not, but man, my biggest one was myself. That's just how I was in myself. Yeah, I listened to everything.
You had to have self-confidence, so you'll never know.
I listened to things, but that was my driving force. It was me. I beat myself every day. Because when my body was weakness in my mind, I overcome it. When somebody would tell me things, and I'm teaching and I'm learning, I sit there and reset that to myself over and over again. But if there's going to be one, obviously outside of Coach Coggin, having him in football and baseball and teaching me the games at an early age and stuff, and not using him, I want to say this name that stood out for me, that's lasted a lifetime where I'm at now in my life, because I've trained a lot of kids, and I teaching them that it starts from, you don't go give a pitching lesson, you go teach them how to be athletic, those things. And his name's J.R. Teagues. And when I left USM and went down to Pearl River, he came in and he was coach there, and then he left and he's at Southeastern. Now he's athletic director. J.R. Teagues came in and he was business mind and structured. He has a wonderful baseball mind, and the way his approach, when he come to it, it was business, it was structured. You had a playbook. And I'm from Foxworth, Mississippi. And we didn't have no playbook.
That's right.
We didn't go play baseball. Coaches out there, and they telling you what to do. And he done great. Perry knew the game. I knew how to play baseball when I left the school. I knew how to play football. But here's a playbook, and I'm an academic. So, dude, I absorbed J.R. Teagues, his style, and how he set his practices up. And that was a mentorship for me, because when I took over a travel ball team, my travel ball team started at 8 years old. They had a playbook. And when they come to practice, they had questions. If I asked them a question and they didn't know an answer, I had the playbook, they had laps. If anything like that right there happened, my practices were structured. It looked like a D1 practice with 8-year-olds. And it was because of J.R. Teagues. So J.R. Teagues is a name for me, the latter part of my years. That is definitely someone that has built me and structured me to be who I am as a coach, or training, or any of those things.
Well, seeing all your years, you just named three guys, and that's what I say all the time. People say, "Well, who's your mentor?" Well, I got to know what chapter, what season in my life I'm in for you to tell me that, because they come in and out of your life constantly. Correct. So you have kind of segued now. You're a mentor. I mean, you're a coach. Any good coach is also going to be a mentor.
Right.
Because there's a lot more going on outside the lines than there is inside the lines. Right. So how do you tell it? We got just a few minutes here. Tell how are you keeping yourself busy? You talking about all these travel ball teams you got?
Well, I don't have a bunch now. My kids are older.
The whole time, but I'm telling you were doing this the whole time your kids were growing up.
Yeah, as they were coming up, and I got certified to teach and coach. Mm-hmm. And in 2005, I was going to go coach baseball. Hey, and then my daughter and my son was born. And I went in the oil field over the summer before I went into teaching and coaching, and started making oil field money. And it's like, hey, I'll do this for a couple of years and kind of get our little young family established. And then I'm going to come back and do my passion.
Teachers and coaches don't make a whole lot of money unless you're at the, the college or
that's
professional
right. You keep on climbing, and then once you get your years in, you can get to stages in your life. But a young family, I was on the income, and that part never left. I've just worked my way up through the oil field, and I'm an drilling fluids engineer now. But during that time that I was doing that, I had days off to where I could take travel ball teams, and then different people would call me up that saw me play, and they hey, can you help my son out? Can you help my daughter out? I mean, it's just different things, different sports. It doesn't matter. I coach soccer. My two girls, they love soccer. The Rotary Soccer League up here and stuff. When they show up to our practice every year, they have to draw out a diagram, and they have to know where every position on the field's at. If they don't know where the field's on at, you got to stay on the sideline. That's my mentality. So whatever sport, whatever season, here's kind of like when it's October, the town looks like Halloween. When it's November, it looks like Thanksgiving. So whatever sport's coming up, I adjust myself. And then if a phone rings, and I've got time with work, I answer it. And I tell them, hey, let's go. And for me, I pitched, and I was blessed to be able to do that. But when I first meet any athlete, I don't care what sport it is and stuff, I don't go to talking about pitching mechanics. I don't talk about hit mechanics. I don't talk about ball strike in soccer, or are you dribbling, or you're handling the skills. The very first thing that you do when you're training anyone is you need to stress the fact of getting your body to become athletic with athletic movements. And the first place that starts, it's going to start with flexibility. And without flexibility, there's no way for you to maximize your body to be able to move. So I can go and I can sound real smart, and I can sell a pitch. I can show mechanics and try to get you throwing straight. But that's all you're going to do is throw straight. How are you going to throw with power? You're going to throw with power because now you're flexible. So those things right there, for me, I love it, because I see so many people, they want to go train and they want to go show how smart they are. They want to show these big words, and they want to sit here and put them in all these positions and stuff. But what I love about it, this little simple mind in Foxborough, Mississippi, is I like grabbing somebody and saying, hey, let's go out here. Let's go out here in the dirt, and let's start at the beginning. And let's get ourselves stretched out. Let's get flexible. Now let's start moving. And when their body starts moving in a movement that I can see that, hey, now I can go show them that right there, that's when we start. And when that happens, the light bulb goes off on them and stuff. And for me, that, obviously I wish I was still playing. But that's my motivation now when I see that, when I tell someone something like that, and then now they're bored, they're tired of stretching. They're tired of this and that, and they hadn't even picked up a baseball, or they hadn't grabbed a basketball or anything and stuff. And then all of a sudden, hey, as soon as you get to this point, then we'll do that right there. And then as soon as they get to that point, then we go. The first time they do something, they've never done it that way ever in their life, and their eyes get big and stuff. And that's when growth starts. And that's what fuels me. I absolutely love it.
It sounds like some real facts being dropped right there. Some folks probably needed to have heard that. I'm assuming I'll see your first series of instructional videos on YouTube here pretty soon. If nothing else, from just a motivational standpoint.
That's right.
Don't break out the PVC and all that kind of stuff. I've seen enough of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
All right, brother. I can't thank you enough for being on today.
Awesome.
I knew that this conversation was going to be at that next level, because I knew you're a baseball guy. You got a lot of knowledge about the game. You brought up some stuff that a lot of kids that are going to watch this, a lot of adults going to watch this, they had no idea that's, and you and I will both agree with this. It doesn't matter how talented you are.
No.
One of the largest points, especially if you're on a pitching mound, is the mental approach.
That's right.
You talked about you would have mound visits with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I did the same thing. I'd have coaches look out there and like, you are correct. What is this kid doing? He's out there talking to himself. Yeah, because I'm out there, can't believe I just missed, I just put 3 on the black, and the guy only gave me 1 strike in 3 pitches. Right. And I'm upset about it. So, like I said, man, I can't thank you enough. It has been an absolute blast. Hey guys, for those of you that hung in for the entire show, want to thank Mark for being here today, and we will see you guys next week, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central. We'll be talking to Josh Smith, who is the general manager of the Yards here in Columbia, Mississippi. Y'all have a good evening.